Hey there, my partner and I are looking to invest in fixer-upper homes and condos. Is there a market for that in Hawaii? So thank you, Adrian, for sending us that question. I think it's a good one. Scott, I kind of was thinking about you just because I've known that you've done a lot of fixer-uppers over your. I remember a long time ago, Scott. Many, folks. Scott and I go back like something like 20 years, and I remember way back in the very beginning, you were sending me some photos of condos that you were renovating and you were redoing and fixing and flipping, etc. So I'm sure that Dylan has done a few of those too. But Scott, why don't you lead us up on this? What do you think is what's the market? Where's the fixer upper thing looking like right now?
So I love Oahu for this because it's a mecca. It's an oasis of old homes. If you look at Oahu, it was basically built from the urban core outward from like 1940 to 1970. There was a massive boom in the 60s and 70s of condo construction and housing construction where they added like 14,000 new units per year. And just to give perspective, we're only adding like 3,000 units per year now. So it went nuts. And because Hawaii is so expensive, most people don't tear down and build new. They fix up, and we got a lot of single wall construction, or they add on. So there's an oasis of opportunity here as far as buying a condo, buying a home, and fixing and flipping it. There's a lot of very old inventory, and we have a significant amount of our population that's older, that's living at home, that deferred maintenance is coming around because they don't have the physical capabilities to be able to take care of those homes now. So yeah, I'm always got my finger on it down there.
So what do the numbers look like in terms of is there a profitability there? I mean, because I know like a huge part of the expense, of course, the massive part of the expense is the land. You're really paying for land for a lot of these structures. Their value is next to zero compared to the value of the real estate. How does the kind of the profitability work? How much of a premium, house A versus house B? Let's talk about that. You got two homes, everything's the same neighborhood, same everything, two homes. One of them is one of those, old homes built in the 50s where the folks that are living in the home were the ones that bought it new, right? They're still there and they're moving out, they're retiring, etc. Versus one that's right next door, let's say, same age, but it's been completely remodeled. It's got all the modern everything to it. It's totally redone. How do the premiums and the dollars work on those, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed when I've run my numbers, like when I was doing the new construction stuff, the further out of the urban core, the better the profit margin for you because you're less capital in, and you're in a more affordable price point with more buyers. When you get into in-town Honolulu, you're paying such a premium for land and stuff that you got to be a little more careful. But at the end of the day, is there money to be made? Yeah. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get dirty and get out there and grind on it, then you're essentially eliminating the labor component of that, and you're carrying that on, and you can make money doing that. If you're going to sub it out and give it to a contractor, guess who's going to make all the money? The contractor is, not you. So you got to be willing to get in the dirt and roll up your sleeves and go at it. And that's like one of the things I'm willing to do, right?
It's like the thing is they during the gold rush, the people who sold shovels made a lot more money than the people who were digging up gold. Very good. So Adrian, you want to get a hold of us? There's a link in the description. Click through, get on the contact form, and we will. Well, I believe you. Yeah, I emailed you, Adrian. So if you want to go further with this, Scott's the guy. At least I know who. Dylan, fill us in. What's the fixer upper market looking like on the Big Island?
Here's the biggest construction. The biggest consideration, Hawaii wide, if you're doing, fixer upper, fix and flips type stuff, is your initial risk is way higher than it is anywhere else, right? So it's just a matter of ratio, right? I mean, somewhere else, maybe you can buy a fixer for 200, put 50 grand into it, and then make a $50,000 or $75,000 profit, right? It's the risk level is relatively low, and you don't have a huge return necessarily. But in Hawaii, a fixer upper is going to cost you $600,000 or $700,000, and now you got to put 100 or 200,000 into it. And yeah, you may make $100,000 or $200,000 profit at the back end, but when you're first starting off, do you have that much capital to get you started and to do the renovations and then realize the benefit on the back end? So just something to think about from a business planning process.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good points. What's your take? I mean, what is your take on the fixer upper part on the Big Island, Dylan? Is it are there dynamics that are different? Like Scott was.
I don't think there's real great margins to be made. I just sold a house that was built in 1964, had zero upgrades. I mean, was pretty well. I mean, some old Japanese people lived in it, so it was pretty well maintained, but zero
Those
upgrades.
old Japanese are so good. I gotta say, those old Japanese are so good at their homes are like in pristine,
Impeccable. Yeah.
unbelievable, man.
That's the ones with the scissors out there cutting the yard, right?
Yeah. But we listed it for $499. It sold for $573, so $74,000 over what we listed it for. And maybe it's worth $650 or $700 if it was really decked out really nice. I mean, in an old neighborhood, South Kona, like not anything fancy. So you pay $570 for it, and you probably need to put $100,000 into it to upgrade the whole house. That's kind of a conservative estimate if you're gonna do all the bathrooms and flooring and paint and roof and kitchen and everything. And now you're at 675 somewhere in there, and you're kind of back in market value. You're not going to make $100,000 off that house. So, and the other consideration is you got to have cash. If there's any deals to be had and you need any type of financing, good luck. It ain't gonna happen.
I don't. In this market, you got to be real careful because you're basically buying on tomorrow's value, right? Because otherwise, you got to pay a premium to get in on the property if you're buying it on the market. And then you're expecting the price to be higher when you finish with this thing. So there's significant risk. I actually am not a huge fan of fixers. I'm more of a long-term hold kind of guy. And the risk on the long-term holds, I can make almost the same kind of return as I can on the fix and flips, but I got a property that's going to produce for me for years and years and years. And the risk level is significantly lower. So you just got to be really careful, and who you work with. You got to have people that you trust that can work with you and do the work. Otherwise, it can be difficult unless you're doing all the labor yourself.
And in this market, you're competing against people who don't want to fix and flip. They want to fix and live, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't care if there's a profit margin on the back end. They're willing to buy it, spend the money, and be at market value, and they're good to go because they're going to live in the house for 10 years. So that's the other dynamic right now that puts you at a disadvantage. If you're looking for that deal and that good profit margin on the front end, it's going to be hard because there's people that don't care about that on the back end that you're going to be making offers against.
Especially in today's market. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm getting ready to renovate a condo here, and man, it's been a nightmare. Just even the kitchen cabinets. I was like, I had my whole layout set up. I went to go put the deposit down and whatnot. They're like, oh, by the way, we're out of this and we're out of that, and it's not going to be until potentially end of October before we get that in. And then I'm trying to get my Curdy products for the shower pan, for the shower surround and stuff. They're out at Doll Tile. I had to order it off of Amazon. I'm like picking over here, picking over there, and trying to set this timeline up. I'm like, man, this is a mess. It's a headache right now.
Yeah, and look, and Tom Kerr concurs. Scott is established and correct. I would be terrified to buy a fixer-upper in Hawaii where no one, labor is unpredictable, and everything has to be shipped in. Exactly. Versus, Adrian, God bless. It sounds like you folks are probably experienced and you've done this before, and you kind of know what you're doing, and you connect with someone like Scott or Dylan, and you can kind of get yourself set up. But for the regular person, I just want to move into the darn house. I'll renovate it. I'll do all the renovations. When we moved into our home 20 some odd, almost 30 years ago, we did a bunch of renovations to it. It was one of those classic old homes. It wasn't maintained by an old Japanese couple, but it was maintained by a little old Greek lady. And she was just, she was right there too. But, we did like a ton of renovation to it. But again, it wasn't because we were going to flip it. It's because we wanted to live in it. Excellent.